Good evening, good evening, good evening, and thank you if you've been with us most of the day. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. I'm sure that people continue to join this evening. What a fantastic kickoff to this festival. A really good day. If for those that missed it earlier on, obviously I did the opening address. Then we had an in conversation with Julia Labassiere from DDA, which is a creative agency, marketing agency that markets films. And then we also had a good conversation with Angela Chan, Dr. Angela Chan, as she's known now. She used to be a diversity worker at Channel 4, or head of diversity at Channel 4, and now is leading in some conversations around AI and immersive content, which was amazing. So fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. This there, there's a small group. I'm sure that more will join as we continue. So what I really want to do is I really want to make this interactive. Yeah. So I'm asking you guys to really get involved in this conversation. It's rare that we get talent like Paul for ourselves, right? So let's really utilize it. Ask questions. Do you know what I mean? Ask as many questions as you want. Paul is. I've just had a conversation with him backstage. He's an open book. You can ask him anything. And what I'm loving about Paul, Paul must have got the memo because he's really real. He's 110% real. So he fits right into where we stay, right into our community already. So, like we like to keep it 110% real. So really kind of ask Paul as many questions as possible. As Lily says, either drop them in the chat or put a question in the chat. We'll bring you up on the stage and let's get this conversation going. Paul, what a pleasure, absolute pleasure to have you. And I'm really lucky because I think somebody who's on the leaders program introduced us and you've been really gracious with your time. So thank you
Oh,
so much for
it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for setting up the TV Collective, because I know what it was like to be working in the game 17 years ago. And most people, when they came across a closed door or a dead end, they often turned their back on it and just walked away and never bothered coming back to the medium of TV or film or radio. But you actually set up the TV Collective. I commend you for that, and congratulations, man, and long may it last. And I'm sure
thank
in
you.
years to come, we're going to find people that came to these seminars that ended up doing well, and they'll come back and pay it back. And you know, hey, it's no fun if it's not a struggle, Simone. That's my point. If it's too easy, every Tom, Dick, and Harry would be doing this, right? It's meant to be a
Absolutely.
challenge. It's a very privileged business to be in. You know, there's so many people. I've just spent 22 days in a stroke ward, yeah, and no one
Well,
knows who these nurses are. No one knows who these people are, right? But we can swing a boom on a TV set and get a credit on television, and everyone knows that I swung a boom. So it's
that's
like we
right.
have to realize how lucky we are to be in this game, and the reason it's tough is because it's so exclusive, right? It's a tough one to get in, but I do believe that the liabilities one perceives one has is actually their assets.
Right.
I've
Right.
come out of a hospital wanting to write a TV series immediately because of what I've just learned, what I've just
Yeah.
been through.
Yeah.
Nameless men, can't remember who they are, can't walk, can't talk,
Was you
being
is it
nurses,
was
you know?
was you in hospital yourself or were you
No, no, I was
researching
looking after my
project?
father. I look after my parents, which is why I write a lot more. I'm slightly older than a lot some writers. I'm 51, so I've got to the stage of my parents are in their 80s. I lost my mum this year, sadly, but I spent the last 3-4 years looking after her. No, I did not write a film about dementia, but I lived it. I didn't jump on that, but I did get inspired by being in this ward and seeing all these men of British background and foreign being cared for by women from foreign climes. So the whole point is that you're inspired as a writer because you have an ability. As long as you have a pencil and a scrap of paper, you can work, and that's the only reason why I write. It's the cheapest way of entering our media.
Yeah. How I mean, like I originally when we spoke, obviously because of your connections with Monkey Man, immediately assumed you were in LA sunning it up. Where are you based at the minute? Where are
I,
you
I,
kind of
I live and work in Southall. I live right near Heathrow Airport. Close enough so that when we arrived as immigrants, we're near to our relatives, and close enough for them to deport us. If they thought, depending on who's in charge in this country. Yeah, I live in Southall. I live in my community. It inspires me. It suffocates me. It makes me laugh. It makes me cry. And I guess it's just that sort of pendulum that you need. Whereas in LA, there's no seasons. It's all right, man. It's okay out there. I can write about LA. I saw enough stuff in LA. I can only
Yeah.
be in a place sometimes for a month, and I know it inside out, and I leave because it's just the same thing on a loop.
I can
You know,
imagine.
people queuing up for ice cream, enjoying the weather, waiting for a job that never comes. Whereas in London, it's my home. I'm inspired by it. I speak to people in LA, but I think if you look, because of my age, I didn't go. Most people went to LA when they're like Dev went when he was 18, 17. Totally different
Mm,
kettle of fish, man. I went to
mm,
Leeds and went to university and got a degree in psychology at 17. So that was my thing. And then I ended up graduating and getting a job as a bin man at Nickelodeon. I started doing the rubbish there and just worked my way up, which
yeah.
is very easy to do. It's easy to be a sharp knife in a room full of blunt ones because everyone's there for nepotism. They're all nepotistic, you know, which is great when it works. But I just went in there as a Southall kid with a degree. See, mine, I'll clean a toilet if you give me a tenner. It doesn't matter to me. It's an experience. But when you have a
Yeah.
little bit of education, or you have a little bit of something behind you, it gives you that confidence where you know you're not defined by your job. And if anyone's looking at this today and is only feeling happy if the industry is going well, then you know you've messed up your life. It's got nothing
Oh
to do.
wow.
You shouldn't base your happiness on the business or what you're
Yeah.
writing or what you're doing. It is important. I do get it for your own benefit and your own self growth, but really you should be basing your happiness on your life, your health, and then everything else will come with, you know.
But it's, I mean, it's a tough time. I wanted to kind of just quickly, just briefly take you back. What was your first jobs or your first kind of entries? Like you said, you were kind of a bin man
Yeah,
at
yeah, my
Nickelodeon.
yeah.
First
So
writing job.
yeah. My well, I tell you what, I started at. Look, I love music. Music's my love. Yeah, it's the one thing I'm probably the best at. I don't work in it because I don't stigmatize it. But I've just started making my own soundtracks, and I've started like I think I was mentioning to doing audio books of my scripts. So rather than doing pictures and wasting, I just do them as audiobooks, and I find that that really translates well because people can listen to it in their car on their way to work, or actors can hear it, you know, so on and so forth. But how did I start? So look, my first couple of jobs, I was 17, 16 years old, sorry, 16. And I started look, I like guitar, I play guitar, right? So I'm into like, I like rock music, metal music. Yeah, I grew up listening to Hendrix when I was a kid. If you play guitar, you're not going to be listening to, I liked house music and all that, but I wasn't making house music at the time.
Mhm.
So I got into guitars and I was a brown kid into something that not other brown kids were into, or at least weren't out talking about it, right? So I ended up working at Raw magazine. I got a work placement working in rock music magazines, rock journalism. So I worked at which, and it also had Smash Hits and Just 17 on the same floor. And I turned up just as desktop publishing began. That's how old I am. So, so in the last few weeks that I worked in this magazine, I was doing literally cut and paste. You know, when you get posters in magazines, I used to cut them out and put them in. And then I saw this Apple Mac turn up, but I was still working it. So I worked in journalism and I used to review albums for Kerrang and for Raw. And then I go and meet these bands. I knew I was the first brown person they'd ever met. I know Motorhead
Mhm.
hadn't met a Sri Lankan before, but they met me. Guns N' Roses, Nirvana had just come over. All that stuff was happening. So I did that and I got a taste for it, right? Then I went to uni and I started work. I worked at Kiss FM.
Right.
And I remember getting called in by Lorna Clark, I think her name was. She'd just come from the BBC and started there. And she goes, "What is this music called jungle? What is this jungle music?" And I remember I was into my jungle at the time, right? And by then I had got an S950 sample, and I did get into making dance music, which I still like to do, although I can do it on my computer now with nothing, because GarageBand is tremendous. But so I did music, radio, I didn't my time at Kiss wasn't that enjoyable. It was on the Holloway Road. It was before they were bought by EMAP and became as commercial as they are today. Had some good stuff, but I just felt it didn't meet my romantic expectations.
Mm.
Apart from mixing with Groove Rider, Fabio, and you know, Jazzy B, Soul to Soul. I love those guys. I loved all that, but it didn't tick my boxes. So now I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I graduate in psychology. I specialize in behavioral science. Yeah, and juvenile delinquency. I wrote a paper on the effects of video violence and crime on actual murders and so on and so forth because Jamie Bulger had just occurred. And then I
Yeah.
graduated. Right now, I'm like, what do I do? So I just applied for jobs. And I thought, well, I don't. This media malarkey is okay. If I'm lucky, we'll never work a day in our lives, right? We'll just do our hobby.
Mm.
So I just applied for loads of jobs. I still got all 25 rejections, not a chance. And if I did it again, even with Monkey Man, I'd get 20 rejections, guaranteed, right? Because that's just the way the UK is, unfortunately. A little bit of a
Mm.
can don't attitude sometimes over here, which I get, but it doesn't bother me. It's water off a duck's back. So I got a job at Nickelodeon, and my first job was to clean out a lift riser no word of a lie, of dead rats. There must have been about 100 of them in this lift riser, and that was my first job. And I
Ew.
remember putting this dead vermin in bags, sweeping it up, and Nickelodeon had just moved into a building on Rathbone Place. They just moved from the Trocadero. They were just setting up a live TV studio. The timing was perfect, right? So I'm in there as a
Yeah.
runner. I'm willing to get my hands dirty. I'm a Southall boy. I don't care. I'd go up every day and see the staff, and then you start to get to know the staff, right? Okay, you
Mm.
start to know people. Then it's down to your personality and your charm. And if you haven't got that, you best be bloody talented or very rich. One of the
Yeah.
two. Because if you haven't got any charm and you can't apply yourself, and if you're more inward, I support that. But you need a mouthpiece. You need someone to help. You need to be your own Don King, your own promoter, so to speak. So
That's the
I used to
one.
just do a lot of self promotion. I found it. There was, like I said, there was a lot of people there for nepotistic reasons, and I managed to work my way up from bin man to runner to floor manager. Then the Comedy Channel came in.
Yep.
And so I started working with Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright, David Walliams on their
Oh, no.
first things.
Mm.
Again, I was the only brown boy on the set, which I was very aware of, by the way,
Mm.
because if any time any black jokes came up or Asian jokes, I was aware that I'm the only brown guy here, and I wonder, and we'll come to that in a minute, actually, about directing and producing as well as writing. And then from there, I realised there was not a glass ceiling, but they offered me a head of production job at Nickelodeon, yeah. And I
Yeah.
just thought I don't want to sit in an office, man. And I was a little bit like maybe arrogant, perhaps at that age, 24, 25. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then I left, and then I came back as a freelance director. So I started gallery directing, freelance, earning more money doing that. And just remembering everyone that you meet, from the security to the cleaning person to whoever, is as important as the CEO and all the people you meet upstairs, right? The people that
Absolutely.
let you in the building and let you out of the building are
100.
vital. They are still friends of mine to this day. They're the ones that used to
100.
let me in. They're the ones that used to help me learn the Avid, brand new technology. What else did Nickelodeon have? The first blue screen studio in Europe, man. Silicon graphics machines. I'm sitting in there, guy. I'm not going to say some guy from South or like I'm Oliver Twist. I'm just a guy that wasn't like anyone else in the room necessarily. Is it exciting to me? I didn't see this as something that my uncle got me this job here. It's like, no, I got this gig. I've worked my way up. I've learned how to use a talkback, how to drive a mixing desk, how to do this, how to be a floor manager, how to be an assistant director on location. So we did a show. We did I think they did that what's it called? Spaced. They did Spaced and shows like that. And so I was floor
Yeah.
managing and first ADing all this stuff. Then they offered me that. I came back as a freelancer, like I said, and then I thought, now I want to do movies. I've always wanted to do films. I realized that I was in this really just to learn a few things to get towards movies. So even though I was directing television, in my break I'll be watching the making of RoboCop, or I'll be reading a book by Sam Raimi on the making of Evil Dead. I'd always, even when I went on to work on the world, I left Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
I went as a freelance director. I started writing. I made a short film.
Mm.
I've, I was still bankrupt from that short film like 20 years later, man. It's tough, you make a short film, there's no real way of making any money back of that short film. So now I tell anyone, if you're going to do a short, don't forget it, man. Make a feature. It's the same effort. And you can sell a feature. Can't do anything with a short. So basically, I started making, I did one short, and then I met people at Nickelodeon and Paramount that went on to become quite big.
And
Lee
that
Francis
kind
went
of
on to do
field.
people. Yeah, both. We did both Selector in our lunch breaks. It's funny it got
Mm.
cancelled because it was a Ghanaian girl and a Sri Lankan that made that show with Lee. We just weren't
Mhm.
in like not so much with Lee. I love him, but the people that then saw the show didn't invite us to play.
Right.
So we just went off and did our own thing. It didn't matter to us. But at the end of the day, that show had its direction and its look and its style to a certain extent because it was the three of us.
Mm.
And I always
I
said,
wanna
you're a
kind of
redhead, so it's funny. So we shot that in our lunch breaks and that sold 9 million DVDs, man.
Yeah, because I wanna like, how did you so obviously you kind of worked your way up, excuse me.
Yeah, yeah.
How kind of what was your entry point into Monkey Man? How did you get involved
I'm
in the
not,
Monkey
I
Man?
wrote, so after I left Nickelodeon and knew I wanted to do movies, right? I, um, I think I went to BBC Film. So this is it, man. So I made a short, right? I made a short, and Alan Yentob, I believe, was part of the commission for this film, right? And I did this short called Library Majnu, Majnu. You can still see it. My mom, God bless her soul, who passed away this year, she's in it, so I'm glad I got her in it. And
Yeah.
we made that short film, and then Lionsgate saw the short, someone else saw the short, and I wrote this. I did a short in 2004, time ago. It's about an inappropriate Bollywood scene in a library. We made it for 15 grand. I was very grateful to BBC4 for giving us the money, and I really cut my teeth on that short. And when the BBC saw the short, they said, "Can you come in and have a meeting?" So I went to this meeting, and I remember I wore a suit. I still dress smart when I go to work. I think I should
Mm,
afford the people. I don't think we have to dress like breakdancers necessarily, but maybe I'm a bit old school. I think I am old school, in fact, because I'm coming
mm,
from that Michael Curtiz look, which everyone's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So like
mm.
but I also feel like maybe it's a reaction to my ethnicity that I feel I need to get as many angles going for me.
You
So
make
that
sure
might be
you got to
in my
make sure you got
dressing.
so many things winning. Yeah, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Well, you make an effort because also as a director, you are the host of the dinner party. The
You're right.
writer can stay at home in his dressing gown and do whatever. He or she may never get seen, but I
Mm.
don't believe that. I think obviously I love writers. I am a writer, but we can't. But anyway, sorry.
Hold on, before you go on, I've got a question, and I want to jump. I want to jump
Ask
in because
me.
I want to make sure that this is quite interactive. Warris,
Yes.
I'm going to show your question on stage, and also invite you to come and ask the question yourself. Bear with us.
Oh yeah. Okay. Mr.
Yep,
Waris
Warris is going
Islam.
to join us.
Hi, hi,
Yeah,
hi, Waris. You know what? Okay, so let's just talk about Monkey Man. I think that will help a little bit. So
yeah,
throughout this whole process, right? There's another guy doing his own path in life, and that's Dev. And Dev's making skins, right?
yeah,
Dev's mum took him to an open audition and said, "Look, I don't think you're going to end up like Einstein. Let's take you down to this open audition because one thing you're great at is performance." Funny enough, he is an Einstein. He is a genius, but he was very good at acting at a very young age. She encouraged him, and he went and did skins. So that was his thing, right?
yeah.
Now, my thing was I went and wrote a movie called Blame It on the Bangura for the BBC. So they said, "What do you want to write?" I went to them with two one-pagers of
Mm,
ideas. One was about a post office set between Israel and Palestine that still hasn't got made, and the other was a comedy, a spoof in the style of Strictly Ballroom, but about Bangla music. And it's about a
right.
girl that wants to compete in an all-male dance tournament. They bought
Mm,
both of them. They
mm,
bought both of them. A guy called David Thompson bought them. I think he did. He did think I invented Bhangra though, which is funny. And you get those cultural things. So when did you create Bhangra? And I said, no, I didn't invent it. It's just a musical form. But I love him for it because they were really enthused about it all. And through that Bhangra thing, I got a little bit of money to audition people. And Dev came to the audition. To cut a long story short, I've known
right,
Dev since he was 16.
right. So
He
and
was
so
wicked. He was wicked. He danced his ass off in this ridiculous sort of John Travolta type role, sort of a male bimbo, if you will, type role. And he embraced it, because he's anything but that. I think you need to be smart to play stupid, is my point. And we love Buster Keaton. We love old movies like that. And he came to see me, and he said, look, I'd love to turn around and be on the set and see you as director. That's what
right.
Dev told me, right?
Okay.
So I knew what he was saying. And the auditions were in Southall, so he come all the way down from Southall. I remember a man came and dropped him off, a singer in a turban dropped him off, and he came and did his audition. It was an open audition. He was the only one that was on TV out of everyone that was there. The lowest amount of ego. This guy's doing all the dancing and everything. It's a comedy film, which he may still get made. And then he went off and said, "I got to do this little film in India. I'll see you when I get back in about 5 weeks." I didn't see Dev for 2 years, 3 years. The next time I saw him was on the podium at the Oscars, and the film he went to make was Slumdog Millionaire. And
Okay.
then and then we rekindled because we both had the same agent. So after I made that short, I got an agent. This is how it works, right? Sometimes it's just happy accidents, man.
Hold on.
Mm.
Before you tell us about your happy accident, Warris, you're on stage and you've got a question about there's greater minority you represent in this country. So do you wanna ask your question, Warris? Warris.
Hi,
Yeah,
Warris.
yeah. Oh, are you there?
He might not be there. He wrote.
Are you,
He did post. He did write down about how come
let me share the question. So let me read the
yeah.
question for you. It was there's a greater minority you represent in this country. Genre writing. It's hard finding people in the UK industry that love genre films, particularly adventure, science fiction, or action. How did you find your tribe in the UK?
Oh, it's funny, man. I don't know. Well, we didn't find our tribe in the UK with this picture, did we? We had
Mm,
to go to Hollywood, man. Hollywood made this movie, not England.
mm.
That's often the
Was it?
case. You know how many young Caribbean boys, African boys are in LA, big TV stars, big stars. They had to
Mm,
leave. We had to abscond, like all the great technicians have to go to Hollywood. Yeah, they can come back and shoot movies. I don't know what it is about it. I still find, how did I find my tribe? Look, okay, in a way, I'm answering Mr. Islam's question indirectly in a way, because when I met up with Dev after we did the auditions and after he'd already made Marigold one and done a lot of stuff and experienced
Yeah.
a lot of things, he is like my mentor, Dev, because he going to the Oscars is no big deal for us. Going to do it, we'd end up in an IHOP afterwards in our tuxedos writing on a laptop that never worked. We wrote that movie on a laptop that didn't work, man. The letter
Mm,
I and the letter J didn't even work. We
mm.
had no battery in the laptop, man. So we used to go and do these things, but everything. Hello, Warris. How are you, brother?
Yeah,
I
he's
don't
here
can
with
you hear
us.
me. I don't know
Yeah,
if
we can
you.
hear you now. We can hear and see you
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. We got you,
Fantastic.
Chief. We
Loris,
got you. Welcome.
welcome. You were going to ask you, was that the question you were
Yeah,
asking? Was that?
no, absolutely. I was just saying, Paul, it's great that absolutely. I hear what you say. You had to go to Hollywood to find your tribe, because I find it hard finding people that enjoy genre, particularly from a commissioner, producer, exec level, or reader level, that appreciate, you put a sci-fi fiction or fantasy film at their threshold, and it's not really well received. Yet it's one of the most sort of widely accepted and enjoyed genre in the world, but we don't seem to have a relationship with it where we write these. So when you wrote Monkey Man and being British, I thought, man, you actually did something that people would want to see here, but they wouldn't understand it here. And I was
Well,
thinking,
Warris, I'll explain something to you. This movie, yeah, is all Dev.
okay,
Dev is of Hindu background. Dev is the man that knows about Hanuman. My grandma
yeah,
is a Jew, and my dad, I'm a Catholic. And I said, I'm not qualified. I don't even watch many movies. The movies I watch are old films, old school movies. Yeah.
yeah,
Dev goes, that's exactly why we're working together. That's
okay,
exactly why. You ain't thinking about Slumdog. You ain't thinking about Lion. You ain't think. Well, mind you, he was making those films. But it took us 10 years to get this movie made, man. It took us. It shouldn't have taken that long. It's not like we're trying to make, Fitzcarraldo or something bizarre. We're just trying to make an action film. It was an all ethnic cast, and now I realize now, because I don't overthink it, Warris. Yeah, brother.
okay.
I don't. Where are you from? Where's your family from?
I'm originally I'm Bangladeshi,
Yeah, yeah, wicked.
but I'm based here in northwest London,
In
Pinner.
Norfolk, we're all Bangladeshi, mate. I'm sure Sri Lankans are close to the
Yeah,
Kingdom of Bengal.
yeah,
And who says the word the Kingdom of Bengal anymore? No
yeah,
one, right? We've been
yeah.
reduced to whatever our definitions are. It's up to us to redefine myself. When I sat with Dev, yeah, I learnt from him. I'm sitting there with the guy that can do anything. We're sat in a cafe together in Koreatown where we wrote
Did
this
he, did he
movie. We
want to
wrote this.
originally?
Sorry, go on.
Did he really want to set it in India? I mean, he could have set it in Southall or Bradford or
Yeah,
Wembley.
yeah, we can say no. What happened was we
You
met
know what I mean? With
together.
the same kind. What was the reason that he felt it had to? Because it's such, he's a British. Ultimately, he's a British actor.
Yeah, but look how
When
much he's done in
and
India, Warris. Look how
exactly,
much
and
he's done in India. Yeah.
okay,
What's he done? He's done what? David Copperfield over here. He's he did Slumdog at a young age.
mm,
He did Lion between Australia and India. His biggest hits, his most profound hits. I've travelled with Dev around the world. I've had like men in their 80s, mathematicians, fall on their knees at him because he played Ramanujan. This guy is the most earnest, hardworking, honest guy you'll ever meet.
yeah,
Oh, absolute hermit. And me and him just stay in and cook chicken curry and have barbecues and do gardening, and that's our hobbies.
yeah. He comes.
Because and he is exactly that. And he said to me, I said, let's do an action film in the vein of Snake in the Monkey's Shadow, yeah, showing
Yeah,
my age, showing those old movies. Simone, these old martial art films that had a sort of governmental undertow,
Yeah.
they were being made by the Shaw Brothers and those sort of companies. And so Snake in the Monkey's Shadow, right? And then out of that came Monkey Man. Well, it started off being called Kid Unknown. And originally the film, which is probably a step too far, was an African man or a black man or a Jamaican man, where he was actually Nigerian, we wrote him. It was about a black guy and an Asian guy, and they took on corruption.
right.
Wow.
That was the original film that we wrote. And the original man that was in the ring dressed as a gorilla, having bananas thrown at him by a racist Indian crowd, was going to be someone like Idris Elba. But it was a bridge too far. We couldn't make that movie because we were also very interested in the African tribes of India, of which there's over, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people of African origin that live in India. And we wanted to
Wow.
bring those into the but it was hard enough just to bring a brown guy in this.
Yeah.
Look, this movie got, you know, I mean, like, you know, there's only so much you can do in the time that we've got. Dude, my mum was alive before I started writing this film. She's no longer with us. That's
Wow.
what film does, right?
Yeah.
TV, you know, you can make stuff, whatever. Documentaries now, they don't even spend more than 6 months on them, you know? I thought a
Paul, was there
documentary was
resistance?
a lifetime to make them, but no longer. So with
Paul, was there
movies,
resistance from
sorry.
was there resistance from India, from an Indian market to make a
No,
film
no. I tell
being
you what
British?
happened, right? Part of this movie, right, I'm not part of. Okay? I'm in that creative zone where it's just me and Dev.
Right.
And no one would piss on this script if it was on fire, for want of a better word, right? We are just sitting, two mates in Koreatown, possibly wasting time. This
Yeah.
guy is getting offered massive roles when we're doing this. I'm with him. He's on the phone with me cooking chicken wings on the barbecue together while he's turning down multi-million dollar roles. That's how earnest Dev Patel is.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, I work with a lot of people and I love working with actors. But maybe I just like working with Dev. I don't know. Maybe it's just him. He's just a bit unique. I know his family. I know his granddad. I take mangoes over every mango season. We know each other, man. Now, the genre came out of the fact that we like all types of movies. This guy loves. I like commercial film. My favorite movie is Jaws. Why? Because I'm scared of drowning. It's about a shark. It's pretty obvious. Also, my dad took me to see it, you know. Then I like American Werewolf in London. I like Tenebrae. I like Italian horror films, all this shit, right? And Dev will know about Korean movies or will know about Bruce Lee or will know about martial art films more than me. So it seems inevitable if the two of us get in a room together, we're going to write an entertaining film. All we have to do is provide entertainment, you know. And
It's really noir, though. It's really uber noir. It's aesthetically.
Yeah, you couldn't. That's Dev's direction.
Yeah,
Right,
totally.
that's Dev's direction. I can't suggest like that. You know, you can get a great Mickey Spillane script, or you can get a great, you know, whatever Maltese Falcon. You know, the director has to then create the look and the image. But I think the writing on the eventual draft that went to the shooting script, it dictated that it was always a seedy nightclub. It was always dark alleys and sweaty streets and beetle palm stains everywhere. We never wrote about anything, you know. It was never some sort of gloriously. It wasn't the Barbie movie, you know. We were never going
Can
to
I
do that.
ask?
You know? Yeah.
Can I
Sorry,
ask?
tonight.
Like,
Yeah.
just given that, as you were saying, and kind of the kind of journey that you went over the 10 years, what advice would you give for underrepresented or those feel underrepresented who wanted to tell cultural Pacific stories or stories that are set in kind of culture? Was there any learnings that you got in terms of how you get those stories across the line, or how you deal with those stories, and also make sure that they're they're wide enough, or not wide enough, but mainstream audiences or so-called mainstream audiences can come to them?
It's a good question, right? I think there's an element of me that's a bit dangerous to the system. So I'll come in at early days when there's no system. It's just two people in a room jamming. That's the best time for me to work, because the minute it starts, what do they say? Was it failure is an orphan, right? Success is many fathers. I like it when it's an orphan and it's just me and him. That's when I know, because it's exciting, isn't it? Because you know you have to convince people. But when you talk about creating stories and genres within your own culture, let's say you wanted to remake Angel Heart in the West African community of Clapham Junction. Why is that an issue? Just go and do it. You've either
Yeah.
got the talent or you ain't, right? Come up with
But
different
the issue
ideas.
is funding, isn't it? There's a, I mean, yes, and definitely, I'm of your mindset, but the reality that there's funding and distribution,
Oh,
and
sorry,
there's a whole kind of
excuse me.
chain.
Right, okay. So how do you become a filmmaker without having a trust fund or having rich parents or having middle class lifestyles? Because, you know, there is this argument now, and people are saying, you know, I don't know the geezer, but how many movies can Benedict Cumberbatch be in? You know, it's like, you know, they're trying to imply that, and I don't have anything against anyone. I take them on face value. You know, it don't matter to me what class, what color, whatever you are. But if you're making decisions for certain people without their permission, then I don't. I do wonder why the gatekeepers are a certain kind in the film industry. But again, my dad told me you shouldn't even better spell the word racism. I live in an Asian community, man. I don't feel the desire to go namaste every time I see someone, or wear a sari if I go to Soho House or whatever. I don't feel that desire, because I haven't abandoned my people. I live with them every day. I help them every day. You know how many people down here have got, you know, what's the old adage? If I had a dime for every time someone said, "Oh, turn my life into a movie," you know, I'd be a rich man. They've all got stories here. Now I'm getting stories from Syrians, from Korea, from Taiwanese escaping Chinese governments and stuff, they're all living in Southall. It's fascinating, right? Now, how do you get it financed? That's the difficulty. Dude, I worked in Tesco's after I made Keith Lemon the film. I made a movie that got the worst reviews on Mankind, man. One review, or Womankind, one review said it took longer to read this script than it took to write it. But it took me 2 years to write that movie, man. And they hated it. And I remember Lee, Keith Lemon, all that, he told me, he goes, you're gonna cry. I go, why? He goes, because you're sensitive and you're sentimental. And he goes, everyone hates me and they'll hate the film and they'll hate you. But you know what? He made $11 million, man. He paid Lionsgate salaries for 2 years. I don't give a shit. I make money to pay salaries for people. I make entertaining product. I don't, I think this is a job similar to being a plumber, being everything. You got to go out and practice your trade. You got to build your reputation. You have to go in the room and make people want to work with you. And then if they don't want to work with you, you can't take no for an answer. You have to go out and write it yourself or do like, dude, I'm trying to get this movie made about two Dundonian kids that want to come down to London to make it, right? That to me is an immigrant's tale, right? I don't care what colour you are. That's an immigrant's tale. There's Scottish poor people that live off white bread and cheap butter. They come down to London to make it. It's a true story. I engage with it. You know, I liked it. And I start to feel like I have an authority on the subject almost of writing these types of stories, you know? Now, do you get paid or not get paid? Very good point. It's very hard to survive, man. After I made Lemon, yeah, it was a #3 movie and a #1 DVD, and I was stacking my own movie on the shelf in Tesco's. No word of a lie. That's not really a hard luck story. I've heard worse in the world, but it just goes to show, you know, when you're stacking your own movie on the shelf, and it's #1, by the way, and I'm stacking it. And I told the manager, I said, I made this film, and he was laughing at me. And then he saw the back, he got a shock, he almost fell over. He goes, oh, what did you think I'd be in Cannes? Did you think I'd be living in a villa in Mougins?
But then how do you keep going? If it's that difficult,
I worked on a building site recently. I did a few days on a site, made 400 quid. That keeps me going. Means I don't have to sell myself too short. And also it's jobs that don't stop me from writing. But generally I'm okay. I sell a few things, you know, I can sell a few words here and there. We deal in words, that's what we do. We have to be wordsmith, we have to write material. In regard to getting through to the BBC and all that malarkey, forget about it. I don't bother with them. I don't bother at all. I've got what Dev has enabled me to do and his support, helping me with the successes of his career and his belief and his tenacity to make that film, as opposed to just fall in the gutter and not do it when he could have taken 5 million to do this movie with The Rock or do something with Guy Ritchie. Dev didn't say yes. No offense to those guys, they're good guys, but he knows he needs to be independent. And I said, go the Cassavetes route, man. Do one for the studio, one for you. One for the studio, one for you.
All right.
So we'd watch films like Night of the Hunter, Charles Lawton's directorial debut. He never made a movie after that. He never did, because it's almost a perfect film. We watched films like Point Blank, John Borman, Lee Marvin. Copy that, you know, we looked at the way he walked. They would borrow that. It was a great creative process, but we were splitting the bills at the end of every night, man. And I think the option's a lot better, because what Dev has done for his own career and for my career is 100-fold. You know, by just taking, dude, don't get me wrong, I was well looked after by him. He's the most generous of hosts. I went to the Oscars twice, man, but it was kind of an inconvenience in between our writing, if I was honest, Simone.
Wow.
And he was nominated, and he gave a presented one as well. But we were just being very Rainers Lane and Southall. We just wanted to get back home and carry on writing this movie.
With Monkey Man, you were kind of more involved with the creative process. Do you know the journey, or like you said, it took 10 years, right? So that journey of getting it to screen, you weren't involved in necessarily.
No, but I know about it. I mean, that in regard to the writing, what would, like, you got to remember, Dev made a lot of films during that time.
Yeah.
He made Lion. He made The Man in You Infinity. He produced an Oscar-directed documentary. So we built a house. We toured with 2 movies. We went to like 15 countries. So like we'd be writing, and we might even be Brassic, but we'd be in a private jet getting flown to Austin.
Right.
With shekels in your pocket, you know. But we were happy because we were doing what we wanted to do. So it's not exactly a hard luck story, but it just goes to show sometimes you can put your hand in your pocket and feel your thigh, but you happen to be on a private jet. It's just weird. It's a land of contradictions. Dev is an expert in India. He wanted to set this film in India. It wouldn't work in any other country, I don't believe. Right? In that it's been done before. The reason that Monkey Man did so well was A, originality, B, Jordan Peele and Universal. Look at these little elements of luck you need, man. So if you don't
Mm.
go into work every day with an open mind, and you don't go into life every day feeling the desire to be inspired as opposed to expecting a closed door, how can you ever hope to succeed? You have to have an element of naivety mixed in with your talent and just a
Yeah.
little bit of like, it will be all right. It's going to be okay. I've solved situations before. I've passed my O levels. I passed my A levels. Even if I didn't do that, I've dressed myself today. I'm sure I could sit down and write what you
But how
see,
does that?
what you
But
feel.
right now it's particularly challenging, isn't it? And lots of people, particularly in the UK, lots of people have been out of work. It's becoming increasingly, and I definitely agree with you in spirit. It's like do what you love, but there's a reality. People have got to pay mortgages. Got to, how do you kind of navigate the space? How do you kind of keep true to your writing? Like when you're, it's hard to be creative when you're hungry and you can't pay your mortgage, right? So
Well, that's
how
true.
do
That's
you?
true. That's true.
Yeah. So how do you kind of stay true to your writing, stay true to what you want to make, but also kind of deal with the everyday pressures of living life and trying to get that project off the ground and into the place that it needs to be?
Yeah, well, you have to see every challenge that comes along. Listen, if you haven't got any money to eat, you probably haven't got enough money for electricity. I don't know. You're writing under candlelight with a quill. Sounds very Dickensian. But, I write most of my movies in a Starbucks, man. I use their electricity, their stuff. I mean, I can't go with Dev. When you go with a big star, and I work with other actors, okay? I like to observe people, but when you're with a star, you're being observed, and I hate that. But I never sold my image rights, did I? I'm a writer. Yeah, and I'm a director. Very few directors are known, by picture. If I said, what Rob Reiner looks like, no one would probably know, but you've seen his movies. So, so you lose that ability when you work with an actor. So you end up writing in hotels, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong, especially
Mm.
when you've got such a great host like Dev, because it's like Christmas every day with him. When he's doing well, you're doing well, and believe me, he does well a lot, and you feel the share of it. But when you're on your own and you're struggling, like me and him have been in the past, yeah, it's like Paul Schrader when he wrote Taxi Driver, right? He bought an old door and then he covered it in a blanket and put his typewriter on it so the sound wouldn't annoy the neighbors, right? He dampened it. And then when he wanted to eat, he'd add hot water into a ketchup sachet of ketchup to create tomato soup. And he wrote with a gun next to him on the desk, which he would hold now and then and point at his own head as he wrote this terribly troubled film. None of it's romantic. None of it's easy. If it was easy, what's the point, man? It's
Mm.
difficult. Because it's difficult, not everyone does it. Everyone can watch it, everyone can consume it. I do very little of that, but I like making it. I like writing it because once you get that little opportunity, and it will come, it does come, it will happen. It will happen if you persist. If you stop and entrench yourself with bitterness and how every door is closed and forget it, become the broadcaster. Yeah, become. You can cut now. You can do a lot of stuff yourself. Then you think, well, I go on YouTube the other day and I find this material coming out of London that's got about 3-4 million hits, Simone,
Mm.
and it's all sort of street culture material. Yeah, but
Mm.
look at these guys, man. Chapeau to them, as they say. Yeah, they're broadcasting themselves. They're cutting out the middleman. Eventually, the studio will come to them and say, "Hey, man, or whatever. Or, hello, we love what you're doing. We'd love to put it out, or
Mm.
whatever. Blah blah blah." But is there an audience for it? There was always going to be an audience for Monkey Man. We're not dumb. We went to write something because we knew there was an audience. So if
But
you
I
put
think
someone,
that
yeah,
But that
sorry,
leads me quite nicely because I was going to say, with the rise of digital platforms and streaming services and all, do you think that these tools are a great tool for kind of us to kind of get our stories out there without having to have those awkward conversations or having to justify why the story needs to exist and stuff like that? Do you think that there are different ways or different tools now that are more readily available for creators to get
show
their stuff?
them. Yeah, Simone, show them. You can't rely on these guys to have an imagination, man. Especially if they haven't walked through your life. If no one's eaten sagaloo and chicken tikka masala and a paratha, how the hell are they going to know what you're talking about? That's a very base comment, but you understand. How are they going to know what prejudice? How are they going to know? You have to explain it to them. You have to show them your technique. And Dev spent a long time justifying him directing. Remember,
Mm.
he's a top actor. He ain't known as a director. He's made one short. And then he went and made a $10 million movie. But he just goes to show. And filmmaking is about your team. Yeah. So what's the word I'm looking at? Benetton up your team, man. Diversify it. If you're looking around you and everyone around you looks the same, then there's something wrong with you, isn't there? You're not mixing with, you're not diverse yourself. Why haven't you gone out of your way to go and meet other people of Chinese background, Vietnamese, Syrian, Lebanon, whatever? Why haven't you increased your diversity? Why don't you look like what you're suggesting the powers that be should be, right? Because then it just becomes an us and them thing. And I tried to do that, you know. Okay, admittedly, I could have a Bengali, a Pakistani, a Sri Lankan, an Indonesian, and a Malaysian. They're still all Asian, right? But you know, I worked with a Ghanaian producer most of my life, a female like that as well, who's gone on to do very well. I never thought of it. I wasn't conscious of it really. They've made us so aware of it now. It's become like this. It's like marketable, isn't it? Diversity. It's a product. It's like a. It should be. There should be shares in it. It's like Tesla. I often don't see people. I don't see people in charge of diversity that look like you, Simone. That's the thing. So I'm getting told about what diversity is, but I don't even want to go into it because it don't matter to me. Because at the end of the day, you just and I think every single artist has struggled, black, white, whatever, right? They've all struggled. None of us should even adhere to this term of prejudice and all that. If you listen, man, if you get 40 grand to write a script for a diversity store, take the money. But I'm not guaranteeing you they'll make it. You ever thought this might be some charity thing for them? Oh, we've done 5 commissions. We're not going to go anywhere, but we've done 5 of them. Brilliant. Let's go out and eat. Right. So for me, it's like, no, we want to get the shit made, right? We want to, even when I worked with Keith Lemon, Lee Francis, yeah, he had nothing. This guy, he lived in a 1-bedroom flat, man. Yeah. And he had a toy cupboard that was literally a closet that big. He loves toys, yeah, collecting them. Now, when I go to his house, he's got 6 floors and he's got 2 floors of which are a toy museum. And you know how that guy worked? He come from nothing, this guy. He worked hard. Whether he's been cancelled or not, that's fine. I know the guy better than the people that cancelled him, right? But this guy grafted. He worked hard. I saw him every day. We used to go and see his wife in the makeup counter at John Lewis where she worked, yeah? I remember every lunch break we go and then she'd make us fish finger sandwiches and shit. He still eats fish finger sandwiches. The thing is, he's got 2 daughters now. He's raised his family. He's won awards. He's done what he's done. And you know what? He's back at square one again now. And what's he doing? Getting on with it. What do I do next? I'm going to write a book. I'm going to come up with a new character. He's going to work with me on stuff. We're going to stop doing comedic stuff, maybe do some drama. Every comedian's a dramatist. It's about this naivety within yourself and this undying desire to not let shit like this get you down. So, man, we live in the most diverse, beautiful country, right? And I'm not even giving you no sound bites here. I know I'm going to connect with you immediately, right? And that's a strength, isn't it? That's an asset. We only talk for a few minutes beforehand, as you know. I just come from work straight here. Well, when I say come from work, I haven't. I just put on a clean shirt. But nonetheless, I'll sit here all day and I do my stuff and I get up early. You know those morning pages? If you're a writer, get up 6 o'clock, crack on, get your coffee, go out to Starbucks, whatever it is you need to do and write. Okay? It's not a glamorous job. It is when you've had the film come out, then it's all glamour, isn't it? Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? Great. But the reality was me and him sharing, ramen, bowls of ramen in Koreatown, which is the only place we could go to because they didn't care who Dev was. Koreans they don't care, right? Until they discovered the Man in You Infinity. And then we were screwed. It's a film about mathematics, man. Can you sign it for my daughter? Because they're all about revision and maths and making it and becoming biochemists and CEO of Google, man. They don't want to waste time in film. Why would they? It's like all Asians tell their kids. They don't say, doctor, engineer, filmmaker. No. It doesn't happen.
But I
like
think that what's coming out really strong and clear from you is that you have to be kind of committed and wanting to do your thing. And it's not about getting a job or getting permission from others. It's just what you do. It's like you just do it and that's it. And, there's successes and there's unsuccesses, but it's just something that you do rather than looking for the external kind of gratifications. Is that kind of right in terms of what that's what I'm sensing?
You must get up and write. I got sent this thing the other day. This guy's one of the biggest con men on the planet. You can see him on Lex Friedman podcast where he's had about quite a few million hits. In fact, it's the longest podcast on Lex Friedman in that it runs for about 6 hours because he never interrupted him. This guy's one of the most crazily creative con men. They came to me. I'm a Sri Lankan in Southall. They said, I want you to write this guy's life story. And then this guy, sorry, this is an answer to your question, right? It is, because all these people are the same as me. This guy served 26 years in prison for fraud. Amazing fraudster. While he was in prison, he wrote 8 books. He taught law. He taught American finance system. He was on the run from the Secret Service for 3.5 years because of his incredibly creative fraud, which I won't go into now. So I got this book. It's called Shark and the Housing Pool. For free, I then turned it into a TV show called Bunko, meaning bunkum, a lie. And I'm speaking to Lawrence Bender at the moment, the guy who produced, Tarantino's films. And I got that conversation going with him just because I wrote 6 pages, because they expect you to go in and do a pitch. But I'm not necessarily a performer. I can write and then you read it and see if I'm worthy. So I wrote it and sent it to him, and that's how you go to the next stage. And then it's also confidence. And there's also such a thing, Simone, as you know, of getting to a certain age where you don't give a monkeys anymore. It's like when you
How
turn
do you know?
30.
What do you mean? I know, cheeky, bloody
I
cheeky.
didn't mean
I
that.
know you're
Sorry. I didn't mean that. But your wisdom reflects that you've been on this planet Earth longer than most. That's what I meant. And like you
I'll
understand.
take it.
Yeah. I meant it as a compliment. You don't look a day over 18. But
Thank you. I'll take it. Thank
I,
you.
but I was going to say that I think my asset is that I'm a brown geezer talking to these white dudes about their lives, and that I can interpret it in a very different way to the way that they see themselves. I'll tell 2 Scottish guys from Dundee, dude, you're more ethnic than me. I'm more likely to get treated better than you if you walk into a restaurant now. Because the minute you open your mouth, I know what you're getting. I sound like the Queen's English, mate.
Mm, it's
Right?
true.
And I'm dressed well.
Mm,
Okay, you walk in and you do, and they agreed. So we started
mm,
writing this movie, and it's called Sold Out, and it's a true story. One of them ended up becoming the manager of Placebo. He was also the man that brought Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine, and Smashing Pumpkins to England. Knows them all very well. And his other mate was murdered by the Russian mafia. True story. Scott Young pushed off a building in Belgravia Square. So I
mm,
wrote that film, and I've just finished that. And that so when my mother was passing away, I was writing comedies. So we write a movie about a man that goes to seek revenge for the murder of his mother. Yeah, bloody hell! Talk about life imitating art. She wasn't murdered, but it's a bit too close to the bone. So I was
God.
writing about something that was affecting me, and during the course of the writing of this film, my mother got dementia. So when she used to call me from Sri Lanka, where she was doing a bit of work, she didn't remember my name, and I thought I got to bounce, so I left. But the work had
Mm,
been done. This is a
mm,
story about a boy that gets revenge on someone that killed his mother 25 years later, has to get to the top of a building to kill the villain. It's Game of
mm,
Death meets Taxi Driver, set in India with Dev's charm. That's what made it sell, right?
mm,
If you go out there and do another movie like everyone else, if you do a 25th version of Ride Along or a British version of Ride Along, what do you expect, man? You've got to be
mm,
original. You've got to
mm.
be original. I would say The Harder They Come is an original film, even to this day. It's a fine movie. I remember when they subtitled it on Channel 4, it made me laugh because I didn't understand why they subtitled it, but they did. But I remember watching those movies and thinking, wow, have I seen anything as fresh as that movie since?
Mm,
I still quote it today. And I still look
mm,
at Johnny Too Bad and Jimmy Cliff and think, what a performance. And I'm
yeah.
itching for those films to come out. And I think if I get together with another writer, any of the kind people that have come along today, and send me some nice messages here, I'm reading on the side. I love it. Thank you, Yamisi Bikini. You can stay in touch.
Mm,
You're a producer, man. We need people like you. Now that I've started taking my scripts that aren't selling, that people don't get, oh, we just don't get it. I don't understand. I can't, because they're not reading it in the voice that you're aiming it to be read. They don't know. So if they see, oh, set in Asia, they assume that he speaks a certain way. They don't think he speaks like me. So what
yeah.
do? Let's provide the information. Let's provide as much meat on the bone as possible, so they don't have to use their imagination. They just have to use their PIN number to get the money out and pay you, and
I
that's
love
it.
that.
So I would believe that there is that. There is another thing of being a bit of a darling. You can be a darling. You can hang out at BAFTA and do all that malarkey. There are middle class black and Asian people, Simone, right, that are
You
richer
know
than the middle
this.
class white people, right? You're going to sit in BAFTA and you realize that this girl's father owns BAFTA. He owns a building. You're like, oh my God. But it doesn't mean she's going to get a movie, does it? Doesn't mean she knows the secret password, right? Why did
Mm,
Bunky Man do well? First of all, 2 mates writing it. We got some stuff down that was unique, admittedly, right? That character, the guy who works in the canteen, that's me.
right?
I've got scarred hands. Look at my eczema on my hands, man. What do you think we're writing about? We're writing about ourselves. We all
Right.
fear the loss of our mothers. We feel like we have imposter syndrome, Dev and I. We feel like we are the 1% of the 1% in India. I've been to India with the slumdog guy. He took me through the slums, man, Dev. He showed me everything. What this guy did for me, apart from my mother, father, and my sister, no one else has done for me in my life. Like no one else
Mm,
has given me that. And it took an actor who had gone and been successful to help a brother to say, let me show
mm,
you Let me show you what I've seen. Let me maybe guide you and guard you. What a nice man, yeah. What a nice
Oh,
guy. And so that I have to say, I mean, I'm saying I'm very lucky, I'm very fortunate, but maybe I'm lucky because my heart was open and my mind was open. First time I met Dev, I brought him a samosa and a Long Island tea in Curtis Brown, and he's never forgotten that. He goes, man,
wow.
I have so many meetings. You turned up with samosas and like 2 Long Island teas and said, let's eat. He goes, I'm not going to forget that. We were inseparable, man. 6 years,
Mm.
inseparable. I miss the
But
guy a
I
lot,
mean,
man.
but I mean, you're really complimentary to Dev and how he supported you. But surely, it's some of your talent has something to contribution to your career in terms of your talent and what you've done and how you've kind of navigate. And I suppose, and again, in my listening, the importance of building networks and community that kind of hold you and support you as you move along this journey, and people who are equally as passionate as you are. Yeah, with those kind of tenements or things that you think are important as you
Vital,
kind of move
vital,
through.
vital. Us staying in touch is vital. Some of the gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen that are on this cast that we're doing at the moment are important that we are able to communicate with them and stuff, right? Because the biggest thing, the biggest problem is trying to get to know people, trying to write to them. You got to go and pay $14.99 to get IMDb Pro. What the hell are they doing? You know, why aren't these people accessible? Well, they think they're going to get inundated by screenplays? Hardly. I am in touch with all of Lionsgate. I love them to death. They still have a go at me as to why we never sold it to them, the film.
Mm,
But you know, Universal come in, they're big hitters, and they bought it. And for me, you must create bridges. Don't burn them. Don't napalm them. My nickname when I was growing up, pardon my French, was fuck 'em fuck it, because I said fuck 'em fuck it to everything. Doesn't get you anywhere. Now I
yeah.
use it as a line. They said if you were a Roman emperor, you'd be called fuck 'em fuck it. Because I was like that, because I had that, you know, when you're in that age, you're just pissed off. You're like, why can't I do this? Or and then you question yourself. So for me now, it's like you have to be a politician. You have to also be keen to learn, take on notes, think about them. You do only read the stories where, you know, Coppola mortgaging his house to go and make this movie, you know, all the crazy stuff you hear about, let's say the making of Apocalypse Now, right? You hear all these stories about, okay, he's a writer director, so he's within our frame here, right? You hear about all
Mm,
these stories of struggle, don't you? But in reality, there are a lot of people that have made films without the sacrificial lamb, without. But it is about network. It is about them knowing that they can trust you to do well. That you're not going to do 85,000 takes on something that is irrelevant. That you know your way around an edit suite. I knew my way around an edit suite because I've been editing in 1995 when Avid came out, right? And because it was a military tool at one stage, it turned up at Nickelodeon. We start editing, and also I was a live TV director, Simone. So you're already planning your wide to close to mids. You're already planning it in your head. So none of that was an issue. And then in regard to getting to know equipment, I was just there at the right time, man. No one was doing media work when I turned up there. No one was. There was it wasn't the thing to want to do. It wasn't. There was maybe everyone wanted to be a DJ, maybe, but there wasn't. But then again, Simone, like if I saw another Asian person in the building, it was straight away shake hands, swap
that's
numbers,
right.
right? I'll be honest with you. And like
Mm,
when I met Vanessa Van Yerbo, tremendous producer, I did the minute I was given a position of authority, I went and found her, said, right, you're producing the show. I've been
yeah.
waiting to be able to say something like that. Now, is that some form of prejudice in my mind? No, it's irrelevant of what color she was, but it was just that she would bring something fresh and original. And also, she appreciated the position, man, right?
Mm,
She got it. She got what this was going to enable her to do for her career and possibly for other people in the queue behind her who are a bit younger. Vanessa
yeah.
had a degree, worked at JD Sports, came in as a runner. Dude, I'm answering questions about Sister Sister and Rugrats. I've just got a degree in the behavioral science, man, in psychology. But that didn't upset me because I
Mm,
felt bulletproof. I got a
mm,
degree.
mm,
Fantastic. Everything I worked towards, I got a degree. Now I do anything, throw anything at me. It doesn't matter. Throw anything at me. I don't care. And I still feel
mm,
that way today. When it comes to my family, my sister, my mum, my dad, then I am vulnerable. But when it comes to this business, the medium is fantastic. There's a lot. I'm quoting Lauren Bacall here. The medium is fantastic. There's a lot of bullshit around it, right? For us, we don't have to get involved in publicists. We don't really have to get involved with producers to produce our product, right? What do you do if you write a script and it's rejected? Where do you go then? Let's pose that question. Okay. Where do you go? Some people will say, oh, I thought my opportunity was with
yeah.
Lenny Henry's production company. I thought, what, you think they're going to give you a thumbs up? They're a businessman. They're business. They're not like thinking sentimentally about whether you're going to eat tonight or not. They don't care. No offense to them. I mention it, but that's just a random
real
name.
talk.
They don't
It's
care.
real talk.
They
Real
don't care.
talk.
So if you want to go and make money and eat tonight, go and get a job in the supermarket, go and become an Uber driver or whatever. It makes for a great story. Dude, I still tell my story. I told you today about stacking my own film on the shelf in Sainsbury's. I had no work. Everyone else was working on that movie. Kelly Brook was off, Lee was off, everyone was off, man. I was just broke as a joke, mate. And judging by that picture, I'd also eaten all the donuts as well. I was that depressed. but basically, you know, we had 2,000 people turn up for that premiere, dude. It made 4 million quid in 2 weekends, 3 weekends, and then you know what? It never made another dime because it was never going to make more than that. I was the one that was romanticizing the Lemon film. I was the one that was thinking this, that, and the other. I was the one that wanted to make Elia Kazan's face in the crowd or remake that with Lee. But at the end of the day, we had to serve the audience, and we did. And we did what we had to do. I could have got Peter Dinklage to play the part that Vern Troyer played. Peter Dinklage, amazing actor. But he wouldn't have been right for Lee's audience.
Right.
Lee's audience know who Mini-Me is. They don't know who Peter Dinklage is. And we have to please someone. You know, it's funny when you start working with stuff like that. So dropping your ego a little bit helps. Getting everyone's okay. I'm talking about as the writer when you've got the script and you're getting notes. In regard to getting noticed by, and then I would say, you know what, get to know actors, get to know. And you think, how do I get to know actors? Well, admittedly, I got to know Dev in an audition, but I didn't get to know him by hanging out in cinemas or hanging out at members bars. They don't want to know you there. You can't get to know anyone there. It's not the right environment. They're trying to avoid people. So the other thing is believe in yourself. Think of yourself as the A-list star. Yeah.
Right.
Don't undermine yourself. You're the way. If you're you know, you're the woman or the man that's writing this story. Our friend from Bengal that just saw Bangladesh, he's British, obviously. Yeah. That guy's got a window to the world that I or you don't have, Simone.
No,
He's a big
100.
target. So that's your unique selling point. That is an asset. That is not a liability. Me being Sri Lankan, mum being Tamil, grandma being Armenian Jew, dad being a Brahmin, converted to Roman Catholic, honorary Punjabi, best friends are Muslim, all this malarkey, yeah? That makes me who I am.
Absolutely.
Travel a lot in Europe. I go to Basel, I go to Italy, I go all these places, cheap EasyJet flights. Anywhere I find a table, I sit and write. I'll write all over the world, man. You know, and if I can't afford to write all over the world, I'll write all over Southall.
No.
There's a library there, there's a bench there, there's places to go and see. You don't even need this to write a film. You don't. You just need and I've written movies in whole books. What I'm telling people is you can't give up. You've got to be stupid about it, almost naive about it. You can't overthink it. It's your job. It's what you do. Now, if you've got kids, if you've got mortgages to, you know, I saw my mate the other day. He's all pissed off. I said, why are you pissed off? He's a hospital porter. He's got 6 kids. No wonder he's pissed off. How are you going to make money to feed 6 kids and you're a hospital porter? You should have thought about that. I love you, man. But now you're going to be unhappy for what? For all your children's upbringing? You're just going to be the miserable father? You're never going to make enough money to feed 6 kids if you're a hospital porter, unfortunately. You should get a lot of money because you whisk my father back and forth from MRIs and CAT scans. I love you guys. But unfortunately, that's the way it is. If you're going to get involved in this business and you're going to live like an artist, be prepared to die poor like one. Don't expect it to be making you a living. Don't expect everyone to be Jerry Bruckheimer.
Jesus.
You know, who's my friend? I forgot his name. Who does the Medea films? Tyler Perry.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Perry.
I
Perry.
got my first phone call with Lionsgate US next week. Yeah, and I made Lemon for Lionsgate UK. So Lionsgate America are calling me next week, yeah, which is nice because I've never heard, you know. So I'll do all my Keith Lemon jokes for them and see if they laugh. They probably won't. But nonetheless, the point I'm trying to make is I like doing a film for Lionsgate because of Tyler Perry. And also Lionsgate, brilliant company, right? Great company. They will see you, man. And if someone's got something, I don't know, Simone, it could be, I don't know how many people are on this thing that we're doing at the moment, but if they want some further advice or a further conversation or some introduction to someone perhaps, then maybe I can do that. You know, it's not an issue for me, man. That's the other thing as well. Everyone's so paranoid about losing their shot or their break. They don't help anyone. Dude, if you don't help anyone, what is the point, man? You're better off. Sorry.
No, but I think that you sum up exactly why we exist and what we're about. That we have to be in community, we have to be supporting each other, we have to have each other's back. And I think the biggest takeaway from me is that nobody gives you the permission to be a writer. You
No,
decide that by just writing. Do you know what I mean? And you seem to have such a zest for life and an interest and passion for life that you seem almost obsessed with wanting to be writing things that you obsess and you want to see all the time. And because of that passion, it then eventually turns into something. And I think that's a really powerful place to start from,
no,
rather
thank
than
you.
looking for your next big commission or
Oh
who's
yeah,
going to
yeah. I
fund
don't
you.
look for nothing, man. All everything I write is my own. Even when I
Yeah,
take the life of two white boys from Dundee, I've made that my own. Because when I
yeah.
write ethnic characters into that, they're important. If we're going to do
Mm,
something about a guy putting on daytime Bhangra doos in 1983, I'm going to explore that more than just having him put on a daytime Bhangra do. I'm going to write a part for an Asian father, a girl in the queue. I'm going to extend upon it. When he's told he can't hire black acts, the first person he hires is Linton Kwesi Johnson and Courtney Pine. That's why I love this guy.
mm,
Because
mm.
he's been treated racist by these other people. So he worked for
Yeah,
Wolf and Stoke. So you understand how I can get my point of view across in my characters and in my work because I've earned the respect of the commissioner. I take private commissions. That's the other thing. You don't need to go and work for studio. I know it sounds ridiculous, right? And I'm older, so maybe it's easier for me. Someone from Stock Aitken and Waterman called me the other day to write a movie about that 80s type of music. See? So I'm not writing about Drake. I'm writing about things that I want to write about. Yeah, my Blame It on the Bhangra film was very Asian, but then again,
mm.
I don't listen to Bhangra. I just write something about patriarchal society and I use Bhangra as a vehicle. I could use
So
Dancehall. I could use Lovers Rock. It doesn't
anything is,
matter. I
but
could do
I
what I
mean,
want.
and I love that. And I think that that idea of being in control, kind of rather than letting life happen to you, kind of make life happen. Do you know what I mean? And taking control. Paul, we've reached the end of our time. I
Thank you
want to
so much.
thank you. That's been hugely inspiring. Like Lily says, you can please drop in. We're here for the rest of the week, so drop into all our sessions. Guys can try and contact you and email you. We'll also send you an invite, and I hope you join our community online. I think Paul kind of sums up why we do this. It's that idea that we don't need permission to do the things and tell the stories that we want to. We just have to do them. And in doing them and being committed to doing that, you find a way. So I hope that this day has given you some kind of inspiration. They talk about thrive, survive till 25. We're not saying that. We're about thriving here and trying to find ways in which to do that. So thank you so much, guys. It's been an amazing first day. I'm so touched. I hope my daddy would be proud of me. I think it was a
Oh,
wonderful,
without
wonderful day.
fail, that was brilliant.
No, Paul, I shared earlier on, my dad's, just really quickly for those who wasn't here earlier. So my dad passed on the 16th of September. So today is
Oh,
his death day, 5 years ago. And what I usually do is, I'm going to be really honest, overshare. I usually spend my day drowned in a bottle of Captain Morgan, crying into a bottle. But this year I thought I'd do something a little different and honor him. So I've honored him, and his favorite number was 8. So I've honored him with this festival for 8 days.
wow.
That's why this has come about. So I am so like, to be sitting here, I'm feeling slightly giddy, and oh my God, this is
Yeah.
real, and yada yada yada. So for you to be here and sharing, it kind of really embraces who he was and what he was about. So I'm hoping he's proud of me. I hope that you guys got something. I'm feeling so touched and grateful and
But
blessed and
Simone, what we were
wonderful.
just saying before, Simone, sorry to interrupt. What you're doing there is exactly what I'm talking about, right? You're sitting here today doing this thing, which is exactly what was your father's good name? What was his name?
My father's name was George. George.
George.
Yeah.
Will be thinking, my girl's doing what she should be. You're working, you're bringing positivity onto the, and we're not just blowing smoke up each other's arse here. This is a very hard thing to do, what you're doing, because it's much
Yeah.
easier to abstain and not do it or do stuff for your own thing. You're actually, I really commend you. Anything I can do to help, man. And let's just remember, writing is the cheapest medium you can do. It's pen and a paper. A filmmaking needs an army of people, right? You don't need anything. And look what, and just apply yourself, right? Just
100.
apply yourself, focus. 90 pages, 1 page a minute of screen time. You have a screenplay, you have a product, you can go out and sell it. They don't like it, you write another one. Maybe you die impoverished with 100 screenplays onto your bed, but at least you bloody wrote them. Because I tell you what, even with the success, the biggest fun you'll have is that white page. That is the greatest pleasure. And if you get paid for it, chapeau to you. I love you
We
for it.
love it.
All right.
Love it, Paul. Thank you so much. What an
Thank
amazing,
you.
amazing bloody hell. I feel fired up. Listen, guys, I hope I see you again tomorrow. I think we start tomorrow at 9:30. Lily, jump on and remind us it's 9:30 with my God, David Cornwall, talking about DIY, how you distribute your films yourself, right? Distribution. Is that right,
Yeah,
Lily?
that's
You're
right.
jumping on.
David Cornwall from Scorpion TV is going to do distribution DIY. It starts at 9:30.
9:30. So lots of
Okay.
great stuff. And you can keep in contact with Paul. We'll find ways to connect you. Thank you all so much. Look forward to seeing you. If you need a little bit more, if you can't bear not hearing my voice again, jump onto the podcast. We've got race rights and representation on our podcast. Lots of love, guys. Thanks for being here. It's been it's like I can't explain how deeply special this day has been for me. Thank you, guys.
God bless.
Speak to you
Bye,
guys.
Simone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Paul. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
You're
everyone.
welcome. You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.